Hello everyone, my name is Adiyemo Adegbemiga Ganiu and I welcome you to my new Yoruba Abrahamic YouTube video. Today's video will be the part 2 continuation of Before the Jihad, what Yoruba history review or the Fulani origin. So I will advise you guys who are coming by my channel for the first time to at least watch the first part so that you can be able to blend into the long narrative together and easily understand things I will be saying. Because in this very part 2, we shall focus more on this wanderer or pastoralist campaign in West Africa at large. How the millions of them, being the seed of the enslaved early black East African women for the pale Arab invaders, how they ended up being the immediate ancestor of the group we know today as Fulani or Fubi as a nomadic ethnic group, and also how this ethnic group as Fubi later now successfully reintegrated themselves with the indigenous ancient West African Negro people through different political means after leaving their origin land, which is Middle East, through wandering pastoralist journey. There is a common saying that goes like this, that a tree or leaf that doesn't have a root always get carried away by winds at any time to an unknown destination, and that is obviously of the case of these wanderers or pastoralists. They are millions in number and they are seed of the enslaved black East African women for the pale Arab invaders. This is why later they evidently now don't fit into the melanated category of pure black Africans, neither will they now fit into the Arab Caucasian bloodline. As a matter of fact, they now became a distinct biracial group in North Africa, whose origin became unknown to many historians today across the world, leading to why it became very difficult for different historians to actually pinpoint the very origin of these wanderers, led by this Fulani group, who are known today as the pastoralist master. According to study.com, this wanderer seed, their ancestor hasn't just been proven today that they have mixed genome with different Caucasus invaders that came into West Africa in earlier days, but has also now been proven as well that their migration pastoral journey did started from Middle East as they crossed into Syria, then Egypt, then founded a colony within the today's Maghreb region, Northwest Africa, straight down to today's Guinea, and to reintegrate themselves within the territorial region of the Negro land, which the Yoruba people pronounce as the Anagoland, in breakdown known as the Yoruba related group domain region in ancient time. Like I have always said in my previous videos, the entire Negro land was once occupied by the same related group of ethnic people whose ancestry directly or indirectly did originated from the ancient Ife or Oyo after massive expansion, from where you can see it not just in West Africa now, the Bantu, everything, they emerged from today's region of southwest of Nigeria, being the most populated black nation in the universe. So this was led to why the Negro people began to come out from Oyo and later settle all to the extension of today's Mauritania region. We can also see that politically, these people were now later being referred as Negro or Nago or Negritis, a word that stems from Anago, and genetically the study further proving that they were also the Bantu in generality. In a nutshell, the entire West African was known as Negro land, and it was named after the most dominant tribe or group of ethnic people that earlier settled there long before the Fubi came into their mix. So it's not a coincidence that it's not also a coincidence why the book of the J. Rojan in 1961 later addressed them as pure blood, straight down, that covers the Negro, because he studied them and realized that these people were practically the same people. They might look different today, but they have the same ancestor, they share the same culture, and certain differences might be different among them, but they have stronger ties mostly. And numerous reports too, like that of the John Ogi in 1670, also reflected on how the Negro land from Judea down to the Riverine region used to be a travel upward, that the people from the Riverine Delta region of Negro land, they also used to travel spread across towards the upper Northwest Africa and mix up. There are so many history about them. In a nutshell, the continual the difference and the continual Caucasus invasions of different class of them into North Africa later gradually led to the displacement of the Hamitic inhabitants of North Africa, and later forced them to come back into West Africa for safety. And later they genetically mixed with the indigenous Negro, the Yoruba people, under different related ethnic group within that same Negro land. So, and again, this further resulted why there are so many books that describe this book. Now, let's say John Ogi book also referred to them as Nilotic Negro. Nilotic Negro in a breakdown is practically telling you that they are Egyptian Negro in West Africa. They are Egyptian, the displaced Egyptian who came into West Africa to reintegrate with the Negro people, had families with them, then later tried to come up with another new tribe or name. Do you understand? But earlier, before then, North Africa was uniformly dominated. Earlier, before the Caucasus invasions of different types, North Africa was uniformly dominated by the Hamites. The West Africa was uniformly dominated by the Negro, which is Negro land, the Yoruba, and that is how we know the terms of Shem, Am, Jem, the Japeds, all those things. So the book of John Hogi also described these people who had mixed outside Yorubaland or Negro territory as the Nilotic Negro, an alternative for Egyptian mixed Negro descendants who came. But in the case of these Fubi and their ancestors, their displacement in millions being the seed of the black enslaved East African women in earlier days, they don't belong to any of these races. That is one thing you need to know. So their own journey into West Africa was solely more political and agendarous. When these breeds were in Middle East, history addressed them as Afro-Arab because already the original Arab were pure black. So you don't need to add. It's like trying to talk about Black America. You're now putting Afro-Black America. Black America is an identity that is already okay for you to understand that they are actually melanated people. Do you understand? So this mixed seed in Middle East, they were being referred to as Afro-Arab. So when you are being referred to as Afro-Arab, when they moved to the Northwest Africa, the Maghreb, mostly the Morocco region, they were later being addressed as the Berber. But today, you don't refer to them as the Berber, you would address them as the Amazi. And mind you, the ancient Berber, they were black. Those that you see today, like I said in my previous video, they are newcomer, mostly from France, all these people. They are invader descendants who are masking the old identity of the indigenous people of that place. So the remnant of them in North Africa, you can still see like they are the Siwa Haosis in today's North Africa. They are still there. Siwa Haosis, they share similarities. They are from the Berber. They are the remnant that are there, and they are more like an isolated group. You know how the Fulani people are? They are isolated ethnic. They live in the forest. They live in the leading to why the term Berber itself was derived from barbarian. It was derived from barbarian. In French, in 1303, they were being referred to as barbari, or the uncivilized wanderer. While in Greek Roman, there was barbaros. All of these are based in the way of their life, their way of life, how they choose to live, their tradition, staying out of civilization, their lifestyle, their primitive lifestyle. So all of these things resulted to why they are being referred to as the barbarians before they later abbreviated to Berber. But prior before then, the Yoruba people who initially dominated West Africa from that region, Benin, Guinea, we oftenly refer to them as àwọn ọmọ ará oko. Àwọn ọmọ ará oko, people of the uncivilized. This is why the land was later abbreviated to Maroc, and from Maroc it became Morocco. It's a Yoruba word for àwọn ọmọ ará oko, uncivilized, and it's 100% tally with what the Romans and the French addressed them with when they also invaded, due to their natural way of life. Thirdly, when this million seed of this mixed breed between the enslaved East African women and the pale Arab, when they later migrated to Guinea, then was when they adopted the term Fula or Fulani. The term Fulani from this Guinea now resulted to why most historians today now love to pick their origin from that Guinea. But before they became Fulani, they've always had different names. They've always had different adventure. They never started their origin note journey from Guinea. That is what you need to know. It all happened that the Fulanis coming into West Africa started between the 8th to 11 AD, which very much correlated with the time when the Pale Arabs started their rioting campaign, which they label under the umbrella of Islamic jihadist conquest. Like I said in my previous video, part 1, their enslavement of black African men were already made known that they turned them to guards and army. Likewise, in the case of these Fulbi as well, the ancestor of these Fulbi too, they became the machineries of this Pale Arab. They became their tool. They became those which the Pale Arab now uses as a tool to root Africa under different political terms and hiding under the umbrella of Islam. As a matter of fact, the Pale Arab as people did not even come into Africa to preach Islam into people. That is another thing you need to know. They successfully converted many indigenous African people into Islam through these their machineries, who are their breed mix that they sent into Africa. That is exactly, they never came to Yorubaland to be preaching Islam. It was through their black machineries, just like the Europeans sent missionaries to Africa. The Pale Arab too, they sent this mixed breed into Africa to come and start preaching Islam. So as of successfully, good for them, as of 1725, they later integrated themselves. They successfully occupied a region known as Futajalo within the central Guinea through political conquest. And as years went by, they further began to marginalize different indigenous pre-ancient community throughout West Africa, continue to politically dominate them, even as a minority, then coining their identity around them, around the indigenous ancient Negro native that were there through political intermarriages, stuff like that. We know of in fact, they did all this in order to secure their future in the colony which they have subdued through the time of Islam. This is why they embark in the remarrying stuff like that, because they know that in the future they won't be able to be easily ejected after mixing their blood with the indigenes of North Africa. So each time you now see history today trying to tell us that the pastoral, the Fulbi, that they are Negro descendant, they are not Negro descendant. They are infiltrator. They are infiltrator who came, they mixed up with the Negro. We don't have any history with them. They are not historically related to West Africa. Neither did they have any history in West Africa till just of recent time. I hope you understand. So let me even break it down so that you will understand. When we talk about the reason why I say they don't have anything, this is why people need to look into history. The word history about these pastoral wanderers always come from West Africa, being the place where majority of them dwell. But if you check out history, you should acknowledge that something really happened. Why? The Negroes of West Africa, they are naturally the Semitic people. They are the original people of the Abrahamic tradition, not as a religionist, neither as anything that we are doing today, but rather as a traditionalist whose natural way of life became what the invaders institutionalized as a religion for the West African people. You can see a reference cited to them in the book of John Ogre again, 1670, where he described that the indigenous people of today's southwest of Nigeria who dwell within both sides of River Niger straight down to Togo, Lomé, these are the Abrahamic people. It is our indigenous ancient story that they formalized and converted into religious book. So it's a natural way of life. And you can see that the Kemites, the Ken people, they are the Hamitic people, cousins to the West African indigenous Negro Yoruba people. They are cousins to us. So we never had any flux. Why the Caucasians, collectively, they are the Japite. They are not the Shemite. They are the Japite descendants, indicating that both the Japites, they are the Caucasian, both the Japites and the Fulbi, they are remnant descent, They never had anything to do with Shemitic tradition. They don't have anything to do with Islam. They never had anything to do with Quran. They never had anything to do with Abrahamism in total. So for them to now wake up one day and saying that they want to bring Islam to the people who actually know Islam, people whose natural way of life is already Islam, there is more to their coming. You should know that there is more to their political. So these are things you need to know. So when I'm saying that these people, they are coming into West Africa is just for an infiltration, to look for where they can hide, they have to call their home. It's all political. I know what I'm saying. And today, they are now found in different places. You can see them in Futa Jalon in Guinea, Masari, Adamawa in Cameroon, the Sokoto in Nigeria. But before they even extended to today's Nigeria to infiltrate with their jihadists, of course, the Fulani, the Hausas, they really understood who they are. So the Hausa put up serious fights within the 1804, but unfortunately they could not. The same 19th century, they also came to Yorubaland. In 1804 within the Ogbomoso area. It was then that the Yoruba people strongly marched them toe to toe and put a stop into them, because of course we were the last hope of if they eventually conquer Yorubaland, or they conquer the south of today's Nigeria, being the most populous black nation in the world. That means their prophecy within their deeds would have come to pass, whereby they continue to preach that this a certain time they will conquer the universe. Everyone will be a Muslim. Islam will rule the world. The whole logic of Islam ruling the world is alternatively mean the whole world will bow to the indirect rulership of this Middle Easterner. It's never about faith, because these people are never Abrahamically in position. They are not related to the Abrahamic people. So they are practically saying at some point. So ever since then, you know why they never be able to conquer Yorubaland like they did. They turned many pre-African land to Arabism, Islamic stuff like that. Is because the same Yoruba species has always been the Judean land. The Judean kingdom, the Judah's location. It has always been that. And when we are talking about Judah's location, Judean land, it being formidable forces. This is why they had to push them back. And ever since then, the fuller eyes have always been in today's Southwest, because that is a long time tradition, is a long time agenda. It's never a thing that just starts overnight. So this is why you have to see where they are coming from. That they are coming into Africa has never been about they want to share along. They are not doing it because of this. Is why even when they commit what they do, they will shout Allahu Akbar while committing something that is not of religion, because it was never about religion. They only hide to perpetrate their agenda under the ideology of religion. Is a deep story that I can't really cover much. So this is where we shall come to an end in this part 2. If this is your first time on this channel, please remember to press the like button. Let me turn up the notification bell. Let me share my videos, subscribe. Let's grow this channel together. Make your comment down below. Respect with everyone. Thank you and bye for now. Like I keep saying, this is just for an educational purpose. I have them as friend a lot, but history have to be said at some point. That is the bitter truth. We can't be shying away of not telling our truth. In fact, telling ourselves the truth will only make us be a better family and better related individuals. I will see you later, everyone. Thank you and bye for now.